morning we are going to begin by singing together number 128, For All That Is Our Life. It's in the gray hymnal, or the words are on the screen. Please rise in body and spirit and join our singers. values. Just a light topic to discuss over lunch together, but we do believe in putting our values to work in the world, and this is a wonderful opportunity to gather in a small group and have a rich discussion with Gary and others. I invite you now to take a breath, to settle yourself wherever you are. Allow yourself to arrive fully to this moment, into this gathered community, as we ring our bell and let the sound connect us.
Good morning. We're going to learn a lot about, learn a lot more today about a person by the name of Edith Forbes Perkins. And what chalice lighting today is a quote from her while she was traveling west from Massachusetts to summer here in Santa Barbara in 1915. If you want to be absolutely cool in summer, have cool, delicious days and nights, come to Santa Barbara and live out of doors and in the water. You cannot live on it. But be sure to bring your clothes, all your clothes, and your furs. No thunderstorms to dread, no flies, no mosquitoes, so this is the place to come to.
We have another flame to kindle this morning. After we kindle our chalice, when we acknowledge the loss of a member of our congregation, we light our candle of memory. And this morning, our flame rises up for Max Neufeld. Max has been a long-time member of this congregation for over 30 years. He has graced us with his intelligence and wit and compassion. I spoke with his wife, Susan, yesterday, and she sends all of her love, and we hold her and her whole family in this moment as we honor Max's life, and we remember all of those who have made this community what it is today, people like Max who were builders of this congregation. And so we light our candle of memory for him and all of those upon whose shoulders we rest. Blessings on your journey, Max.
In a week that appeared to offer a little good news, I am reminded that, in fact, we are surrounded by good news in Santa Barbara. And that good news is you. For all of you who have made the effort to take to the streets during the month of June and express your support, concern, and joy by participating in public events like the Santa Ynez Pride Festival, No Kings protests, and Summer Solstice Weekend in Santa Barbara. Over 100,000 of us participated in or attended these three events over the past few weekends. Many of you took part. How many of you showed up at either No King? There you go. Probably more than half. Or the Pride Parade, or going to Solstice. This is very good news. Your participation makes Santa Barbara and Santa Ynez a more vibrant and engaged community. Thank you. Whether it's marching for justice, dancing in parades, cheering on the floats in groups, or lining the streets of Carrillo Boulevard to express your concern, you are what makes Santa Barbara a great place to live. Thank you for taking the time and making the effort.
Notice that there is a theme of community building that's going to run throughout today's service. And so in that spirit, I'm going to invite us into a time of getting to know and welcome one another. So just very briefly, turn to someone near you and greet them this morning, welcome them into this community, and then we will sing together once more. As with every generation, we update not just our spaces, but also our words to reflect our current understanding of beloved community. So a more gender inclusive and more theologically inclusive language has been substituted for the chorus in today's hymn.
Go free, where the oil of gladness
Thank you, choir. You guys got the hint. Why don't you come up here? Here, come, and stand right there. That's a good spot for you. We have an announcement, or at least an appreciation that we want to make public, and that is we have a birthday coming up. And I think it's in July. Is it July? Tomorrow. So this was the last day of the June birthdays. So I'm not going to embarrass you any further, other than that we'd all like to sing happy birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday, dear Julia. Happy birthday to you. And I want to give a shout out to John Diaz, who said, can you do this? Can we put this into the service right now? So thank you, John.
Good morning, everyone. I am Charla Bergante, our Director of Religious Exploration. My pronouns are she, her, and this is the time of the morning when I like to invite kids and anyone else who likes to come forward for a story. And I see some kids back there. Come on up. And in fact, you definitely might want to come up, and you might even want to sit on the front pew, because a lot of our story is going to be a video this morning. So come on up and sit with Julia, on the birthday girl, on the front pew. That'd be great. Here they come. So did you know that on this day, 100 years ago, Santa Barbara experienced a big earthquake? It's true. On June 29th, 1925, an earthquake woke up the people at 6:44 in the morning. It lasted for 19 seconds. And I want us to try to see about how long 19 seconds is. So join with me in counting 1, 1,000, 2, 1,000, 3, 1,000, 4, 1,000, 5, 1,000, 6, 1,000, 7, 1,000, 8, 1,000, 9, 1,000, 10, 1,000, 11, 1,000, 12, 1,000, 13, 1,000, 14, 1,000, 15, 1,000, 16, 1,000, 17, 1,000, 18, 1,000, 19, 1,000. Wow. So we might not think 19 seconds is very long, but 19 seconds of shaking like that would probably feel pretty big. So there was, the Unitarian Society was in Santa Barbara in 1925, but it was in a different building. It was on State Street, right across the street from the Arlington Theater. And that building was severely damaged in the 1925 earthquake. So the Unitarians decided to build a new building. And they built this beautiful building that we're in right now in 1930. So we've got a short video that we're going to watch that shows what Santa Barbara looked like before, during, and after the earthquake. The first thing we're going to see in the video are lots of pictures of State Street back in the 1920s. And then there's going to be 19 seconds of shaky pictures to give us an idea, like we just did, of what that earthquake might have felt like. And after that, we'll see some pictures of crumbling buildings. Oh, and 1 minute and 10 seconds into the video, time it, there's going to be a picture of the old Unitarian church building, which I think some of you will get to see later in the service as well. Then the video finishes by showing us how people reimagined and rebuilt Santa Barbara into the city we know today. So let's watch. Wow. That's our time for all ages this morning. Matthew, sing us out.
We hold you in our love as you go, as you go. May your heart be at peace as you go, to nurture the spark of your precious life. We hold you in our love as you go.
I invite us now into a time of prayer, reflection, and meditation. A time once again to settle ourselves into our bodies in this space. Perhaps put your feet on the floor or hold your hands open or pay attention to the way the breath moves in and out of your body as we read this poem and enter into a time of quiet reflection together. The poem is called Fault Line by Robert Walsh. Did you ever think there might be a fault line passing underneath your living room? A place in which your life is lived in meeting and separating, wondering and telling, unaware that just beneath you is the unseen seam of great plates that strain through time, and that your life, already spilling over to the brim, could be invaded, sent off in a new direction, turned aside by forces you were warned about, but not prepared for. Shelves could be spilled out, the level floor set at an angle in a second's shaking. You would have to take your losses, do whatever must be done next. When the great plates slip, and the earth shivers, and the flaw is seen to lie in what you trusted most, look not to more solidity, to weighty slabs of concrete poured or strength of cantilevered beam to save the fractured order. Trust more the tensile strands of love that bend and stretch to hold you in the web of life that's often torn but always healing. There's your strength. The shifting plates, the restive earth, your room, your precious life, they all proceed from love, the ground on which we walk together. In this moment, when the great plates of this nation seem to be slipping underneath us every day, let us remember that underneath all of this, all of the feelings we may be struggling with moment to moment, underneath this is the love that grounds us, that breathes life into us, that connects us and heals us. If we are feeling anger, it may be because we love our neighbors and friends too much to see them suffer at the hands of cruelty and heartlessness. If we are feeling fear, it may be because our ability to live and love in peace and safety is being threatened. If we are feeling despair, it may be because we know that a more beloved world is possible, and yet so many seem to turn away from that promise. If we are feeling grief, it is because we have a heart for what is being so carelessly lost. The beauty of the earth traded in for profit, the government of the people dismantled for private power. If we are feeling weary, it is because loving the world so fiercely takes so much energy. So in these next few moments of quiet reflection and personal meditation, I invite you to sit with any one of those feelings, or ones that I have not yet named, any of the feelings that you've been experiencing this week, and see if you can get underneath it, to the love that is at its foundation. Honor the anger, the fear, the grief, the weariness for what they are, the echoing of the call of love in your soul. the reverberations of care, pushing us into action, holding us in community, offering renewal and hope, even when we are shaken to our core. May it be so. Amen. And blessed be. Let us enter into a time of quiet together. We have two reflections this morning on the history of this congregation. And for the first, I'd like to invite Judy Ferris forward. Judy is not only on our Board of Trustees, she is also our resident volunteer archivist who loves the history of this congregation. So come on forward, Judy.
Good morning. As Reverend Julia just reminded us this morning, we stand on the shoulders of those who came before us. Those first shoulders go back a long way, to the 1870s, to those who decided that Santa Barbara needed a Unitarian Society, who decided it needed a home of its own, who built that home in 1890, and then, when an earthquake shook it down in 1925, built another one. They ranged in age from 16 to 70. The majority were from the Northeast, with notable exceptions from 2 pioneer families in Illinois and 2 from England. Most were in family groups, including 5 in one household. The men included a handful of merchants, a lawyer, a doctor, and a clergyman. One of the women was a teacher and then served as deputy county recorder for 30 years. They were adventurous. The closest they could get to Santa Barbara by rail was San Francisco, the last leg of the trip being a choice between a steamship or a stagecoach, and that came over the San Marcos Pass. We have no record of how they came to know each other. I am guessing that they may have discovered their mutual Unitarianism while staying at the newly built Arlington Hotel. But soon, by March 1876, they were meeting in the Santa Barbara Street home of one of the family units, a man, his wife, and his widowed sister-in-law, reading published sermons, singing hymns, and spending, quote, many a pleasant and profitable time. A few months later, they placed an ad in the Boston Christian Register requesting a minister, and they got one. They rented a hall at State Street and Ken and Perdido, and on November 10th, 1876, Dr. George Henry Young held the first Unitarian service in Santa Barbara. With his guidance, a year later, 13 men and 13 women wrote a constitution, signed their names as members of the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara. They elected a board of trustees, 4 men and 3 women. The next year, they started a building fund, bought a piece of property, and moved a building onto it. They outgrew it, collected more funds, including several major contributions, got a loan from the American Unitarian Association, bought a lot across the street from the Arlington Hotel, and laid a cornerstone in November 1890. John, our first photo. So that's just a whole lot of people in 1890. A year later, they have moved into a stone masonry church, and this is photo number 2. It was modeled after a recently erected one in Michigan. I have no idea why none of them were from Michigan. And they called it Unity Church. I have no idea why they called it Unity Church. John number 3. It included, this is the interior, it included biblical scenes in stained glass and multiple Christian crosses. Another 3 ministers saw them through these transitions and steady growth. In 1902, they purchased a lot near State Street and Micheltorena and built a parsonage, funded by a single generous donation. In 1905, they added a parish hall at the rear of the property. John number 4, and you see it's that same church, but you can see over on the right side the additional building. Matching the masonry was beyond the budget, so a simple frame construction was chosen. They named it Unity Hall. Through the next 20 years, the congregation continued to grow, adding a Sunday school, more programs, and enjoyed their first long-term minister. In March 1925, the board decided to seek a new location for a parsonage. In April 1925, they accepted an offer from Trinity Episcopal to purchase the Micheltorena property with the provision that they could rent it for their minister until the new location was ready. In May 1925, they bought a lot at 2015 Santa Barbara Street and consulted with an architectural firm, Sauter and Lockhart, to design the parsonage. On Monday, June 29, 1925, a 6+ earthquake struck in the early morning hours and damaged or destroyed much of Santa Barbara's multi-storied business district, including Unity Church. John number 5 photo. But not Unity Hall. The more conventional construction stood, as did most of the housing in the city. Since all we have are board minutes, we don't know how they dealt with the loss of one of their members who died in the ruins of the Arlington across the street, or the devastation of the church so many had worked to build and support. But 1 week later, they got back to work and held a board meeting. They approved proceeding with the building of the parsonage and further employed Mr. Lockhart to inspect the church building and advise on rebuilding. By the July 27th board meeting, they had been advised not to rebuild and moved to salvage the organ, stained glass. Amazingly, stained glass survived. Pews, and whatever else was of value. They put the State Street property on the market, planning to put the proceeds toward building a new church. In September, they approved the purchase of a house on a lot at the corner of Arriaga and Santa Barbara Street. They moved the pews into Unity Hall and planned to meet there, quote, until such time as there will be a church building. 4 years passed, and with no success selling the State Street lot, the board requested a mortgage loan from the AUA late in 1929 to augment pledges to the building fund. They retained Keith Lockhart to design a new church, and on April 26, 1930, laid the cornerstone, presided over by the president of the board, one of the 5 people who signed the 1877 Constitution who were still alive. On December 10th, a dedication service was held where we sit today. All this was built in 6 months. That Gone was the traditional look of an Eastern Protestant church. The Christian cross iconography was gone. The stained glass windows with biblical scenes salvaged from the old church were donated to the Fiesta Committee. As far as I have learned, the only artifacts brought from the old to the new are the 2 bronze plaques in the narthex, memorials to benefactors of the old church and the first parsonage. Again, no record of how they came to choose the design of their new home. I imagine there may have been some lively discussions, but clearly a lot had changed in those 50 intervening years. The world had changed and they had changed. And a lot more has changed since then. Here we are today, not responding to the earth quaking, but to our democracy quaking. We don't need to build a new church. We love the one we have. But we need to make it more representative of the needs of our time, more welcoming to the community, more accessible, more resilient for what the future may bring. And like our forebears, that's just what we're doing. We've gotten to work, we've had some meetings, a lot of meetings. We've consulted an architect, and as you will hear from our capital campaign consultant in an hour or so, we are willing, able, and ready to make it happen.
I think when I looked at the pictures, the pews seem to be the same pews we have in here now. So I think we've got our money's worth at least. All of us have walked into the parish hall garden hundreds, if not thousands of times, and passed by a tower in the corner of the sanctuary. A simple stone plaque at its base reads, "In memory of Edith Forbes Perkins, 1843 to 1925. This tower is given by her children." And I think these are pictures of Edith and her children, most likely Plummy, which is another long story, we'll have it another time, who ended up giving the tower to us. Edith died 100 years ago today in the Santa Barbara earthquake. And in her honor, her children gave her this tower as part of the rebuilding of the church on Santa Barbara Street in 1930. We walk in the garden, but few notice the tower. Fewer still the plaque, and less than the number of fingers on your hand, Edith's story. Born in Milton, Massachusetts, she was from a prestigious family in Boston and married Charles Eliot Perkins of Cincinnati in 1864. Charles' father was a Unitarian minister and had moved to Cincinnati from Boston to lead the growing congregation there. Cincinnati at that point was considered the far west, and it was the entryway to the rest of the West and Indian country. Edith and Charles were 19th century industrialists who made their own fortunes, even though they were both independently wealthy, at least Edith was, with the opening of the West and the rise of the railroads. They were the peers of the Morgans, the Rockefellers, the Mellons, or the equivalent of today's Bill Gates, Jeff Bezos, and Mark Zuckerbergs. They were the period's entrepreneurs, driving America's infrastructure, its innovation and technology, and setting its course for the 20th century. They were larger than life and lived life differently than we do. Yet, at the same time, they wished for the things we all wish for, not to be forgotten and how to be remembered. By the early 20th century, Edith Perkins had become a frequent visitor to Santa Barbara. Starting in the 1890s, Charles and Edith and their children had begun to visit Montecito on a seasonal basis. After Charles's death in 1908, Santa Barbara became a seasonal home for Edith. According to her children, grandchildren, and great-great-grandchildren, Edith wished to be remembered by how she had appreciated the simpler things in life. She loved animals and nature. Her family of 7 children idolized her. She loved her husband, Charles, as it was said, they made each other the best that they could be. She also loved Santa Barbara, where the dream of the cottage in the sand dunes come true. She considered Santa Barbara home as much as Westwood, Massachusetts, and Burlington, Iowa, where they made their fortunes. It was a place that restored her soul and where she could be Edith. And by all measures, Edith was a kind, considerate, and self-effacing person. Edith and her family wanted her to be remembered not by the family's accumulation of money and power, but by her human side, compassion, kindness, and selflessness. Not a bad way to be remembered. I am reminded daily that our lives on earth is limited. By my age, time is the most precious of commodities and an ever valuable resource. So entering the fourth quarter of the game, so to speak, how do I want to be remembered? Or more to the point, how will I be remembered? I'd like to think that by doing good deeds, publicity, or giving, my legacy would be ensured for the generations to come. Alas, that's probably not going to be the case, as memories are fleeting and our cohorts change over time, so that many of our legacies are generational at best. We really don't have the institutional memory that stretches more than 20 years. And I've come to say with a high degree of assurance that it's very unlikely that I will have a tower raised by my children to memorialize me after I have been gone. Too expensive, and today a bit garish for the times. To help ease their minds, I made the decision, instead of giving a twice life-size bronze statue of me for the garden, it might be a better use of resources to give a sewer lateral in my name with a small plaque on the pipe stating, "For the use of generations to come in their state of need." No, people will no longer remember me for how I made, people will longer remember me for how I made them feel, not what I did for work or what I had accomplished materially. Additionally, my legacy is not going to be determined by how I try to craft it, but rather by how others choose to remember me. Will I be remembered for my accomplishments that seemed important at the time, but never became historical? Not likely. Will I be remembered as trustworthy, friendly, or witty? Or will I be remembered as quick-tempered, hard to please, and cantankerous? I don't get to vote, as it will be determined by each of you, by the way I made you feel, and ironically, whether or not I am even worthy of being a memory for which you want to carry around. As members of the Unitarian Society, we stand on the shoulders who have come before us. It is a 150-year legacy built 1 year at a time. Those like Edith Forbes Perkins, Charlotte Bowditch, Berkeley Blake, Abby White, Sophie Baylor, and R.B. Canfield that guide us 100 years or more ago, and more recently, Connie Clark, Lex Crane, Dick Jensen, and Max Neufeld, and countless others. In the last 100 years, time and time again, our members have stepped up to be counted, surviving the Great Depression, a world war, global conflicts, the establishment of civil rights for all, and more recently, the global pandemic and the rise of Western authoritarianism. At every turn, Unitarian Universalists have been on the side of justice and love with the hope of making this a better world. I hope 100 years from now, when our great-great-grandchildren are sitting in this sacred place, not in these pews, on Earthquake Sunday, they will hear about the difficult days of the 2020s. They will look back on us and remember the character we showed and the way we made people feel. They may not remember our names, will know that they will, but will know that they will stand on our shoulders and make the world better in their time, as we have done with Edith and hers. Thank you.
There are a couple more photos of Edith I just wanted to make sure people saw before we moved on to the offertory. If you want to move to the next slide, John. There's a picture of Edith in Santa Barbara in 1910, and in front of one of the cottages that she stayed at before moving over to the Arlington Hotel that fateful summer. And then one of the favorite photos in the book of her memoirs and letters is this picture of her, I believe it's feeding some turkeys. Her love of nature and animals lasting well into her golden years, evident in this photo. Thank you, Edith.
The cottage we talk about is at 1050 Harborside Drive, okay, which if you come up from the Biltmore, okay, where the road turns quickly by the Music Academy of the West, there used to be a straight line that you can now walk on. It was torn down a number of years ago and is actually the home of where Ty Warner has his property today. So it was there. So it was a cottage, but it's not a cottage like we kind of think of like a cottage, you know. All in time. Today's plate is given to Juneteenth of Santa Barbara. So if you will give generously and follow me with the affirmation of gratitude and giving. Let us be grateful when we are able to give, for many do not have that privilege. Let us be grateful for those that share their gifts with us, for we are enriched by their giving. And let us be grateful even for our needs, so that we may learn from the generosity of others.
Fell and rising California sun, drifting in a day not yet begun. 6 o'clock is peaceful and serene, floating in a technicolor dream. Something nearly peaceful in the sound, rising from the San Andreas ground. Overground it starts to feel strange, underground it starts to rearrange. You better get up and run for the doorway. No time for thinking, your life is at stake. Everyone's doing the California shake, California shake. Unbelieving everybody waits, shifting on the continental plates. Thunder far below the ocean floor, damned impartial subterranean war. Wondering if you're going to survive. God, it feels like 8.4 or 5. 15 seconds holding your breath, living through a microscopic death. You better hold on, the worst isn't over. No time for thinking, your life is at stake. Everyone's doing the California shake, California shake.
Well, as one might expect on this 100th anniversary of the earthquake, there have been special events and exhibitions and conversations like this happening all over town. I tried to sign up for one of the walking tours, but it was sold out. So I contented myself with the exhibit at the Historical Museum, which will be open through July 6th if you haven't had a chance to check it out. It's mostly photographs, a few newspapers and other publications, and a short film. And now that I'm familiar with what our first building looked like, it's kind of fun to try to spot it in all of the retrospective exhibitions. And most of the pictures, as you saw, are of the buildings and the rubble, and the people in them often incidental, standing around, posing in front of crumbled facades. But there are a few more candid shots in the mix. People on beds they had set up to sleep outside. A man at a telegraph desk, seemingly right in the middle of State Street. Two men putting mail into cubbies at an improvised outdoor post office. One image in particular caught my eye. There was not much to it. It is a woman standing in front of some large object kind of draped in a tarp, with her hand resting upon it, her head looking down. She looks tired in that image in the Historical Society wall, and I started making up stories about her in my head, imagining the photographer catching her in this quiet moment. I found myself wondering what she had lost, who she was thinking about. She had had a long, hard day, it seemed, and she seemed to be aware that there were many more long days ahead. And for all the documented evidence of the physical devastation, the architectural stories, it's the stories of the people themselves that capture my imagination. The buildings we build and how we choose to rebuild after everything falls apart, it says a lot about who we are as people, not just architects. And that was why I'm so glad to have Judy and Gary here to dive into some of the stories we hold here at the Unitarian Society. We are in the unique position to be part of this organization with this long and documented history, although perhaps not always as well documented as Judy would like. But there are board minutes and archival photos and newspaper clippings that tell the story not just of this beautiful physical space, but also of the beautiful people who were here inhabiting it. As we say so often when we welcome new folks to the congregation, the Unitarian Society is first and foremost the people who show up week after week and year after year because they believe in the value of compassionate community and want to be a part of a faith where, as we sang in that first hymn this morning, we work to build the common good. And I am grateful that when disaster struck and the time came to rebuild, they responded not by trying to put things back exactly the way they had been, not trying to recreate the past, but instead cultivating an ambitious vision for a new space that would bring the congregation forward, imagining the congregation that was yet to be. And now, like that woman leaning against the tarp, we only have snapshots of these moments in our archives, records of the decisions made without a lot of detail of what I'm sure were the lengthy discussions behind those decisions. Unlike with Edith Forbes Perkins, there are no personal diaries or letters that explain the inner thoughts of our congregational leaders from that time. But the building itself can tell part of the story. It's enough to get us imagining, for instance, the windows that Judy talked about, the stained glass windows from the original building that had been preserved, the windows that were probably more traditional, darker colors, images from biblical stories. They decided to leave those behind. And instead, they reimagined these windows that we will be fixing as part of our capital campaign. As you can see, they're starting to buckle in some places from where the lead is wearing away. And I imagine there was a lot of conversation about that at the time when the decision was made to let them go. And the result is this beautiful, gentle light that filters through these abstract panes. And now I've heard members of this current congregation tell me how these windows reflect their own theology, that the multiple shades of glass are like the diverse human family, the sunlight like the light of love filtering through them. It's a lovely metaphor that has emerged. And I have no idea if that's what the original designers intended, but any good design leaves new room for new interpretation to arise from generation to generation. We inhabit a space prepared for us by those who have come before, but owned and interpreted and imagined by the living congregation here today. Kept alive each generation, not as a monument to the past, but as a sanctuary for the future. The time between the earthquake of 1925 and the completion of this building in 1930 was a time of great upheaval in many ways. The local physical upheaval, of course, but also the national social upheaval, the modernization of the Jazz Age giving way to the Great Depression. If sometimes we feel like the pace of life is moving too fast to keep up with today, how many of you have said that at some point over the past 6 months, that things are just moving so fast? I imagine our ancestors of 100 years ago probably expressed similar sentiments. And yet it was during that time that they were given the opportunity to rebuild this sacred space. It was not a gift they would have chosen to receive, perhaps, to be faced with the destruction of their building and half the town in which they lived, to grapple with the loss of life and uncertainty, but they didn't back away from it. And in the process of imagining what they wanted the future of the Unitarian Society of Santa Barbara to be, I have to think the congregation must have discussed what it means to be a sanctuary in a turbulent world. I've been thinking a lot about that word, sanctuary. It's both a physical space, the literal name of this room in which we gather each week, but it's also an idea, a concept that has both legal and social meanings. We hear about sanctuary cities and sanctuary states, but increasingly it feels bigger and more important than just a legal designation of a safe space. And the people who may need to seek sanctuary in this moment go far beyond just those with undocumented immigration status. In this moment, the creation of sanctuary spaces is important. It is a practice, a religious and spiritual practice, of course, that goes back millennia, and it is not just limited to Unitarian Universalism, of course. At its heart, creating sanctuary is about creating a place of refuge, physical perhaps, but also social and spiritual and emotional refuge for people who are fearful and weary, worried and heartbroken, or feeling alone. In an era of isolation and individualism, sanctuary is not something somebody can do by themselves. It can only be created in community and by community. It is something we create for and with each other. It is one of the gifts of gathering, of being part of something larger than yourself. A sanctuary is not necessarily removed from the world, but rather a set-aside space within the world that enables us to live more freely and more fully because of the restorative and strengthening presence it offers us when we move in and out of it. A sanctuary can be a building like this, of course, grand and beautiful and as solid as we can make it. But sanctuary can also be found around a dining table, on the dance floor, in a meeting room, or over a cup of coffee at social hour. It is a space and a place where we can set down fear and allow our full humanity to unfold in the presence of another. A place where we honor the sacred worth and dignity of each of us and the interconnectedness of all of us. After the inauguration this past January, just 6 months ago, the current president of the Unitarian Universalist Association, the Reverend Dr. Sophia Betancourt, issued a statement in which she said, "There is so much we cannot yet know. What I do know beyond any reasonable doubt, is that we are a sanctuary people. We can make that claim. From the powerful efforts of our elders in the middle of the 20th century through to our congregations and communities offering shelter to migrants today, these are times that will be defined by the continued and increased need for organizing and a faithful commitment to mutual aid. A faithful commitment to mutual aid. And what I appreciate about Sophia's statement is that she lifted up the fact that sanctuary is part of our heritage, our history, our work in the world for many generations. We didn't have to invent all of the tools we need for this moment. Many of them are here already, created and passed along to us by those who met the moment in their time. Throughout our history, Unitarians and Universalists have provided sanctuary to people escaping slavery, refugees from wars, and less tangible but no less life-saving sanctuary from the spiritual violence of homophobic theology and patriarchal power structures. This congregation was part of the sanctuary movement in the 1980s, for example. The warming centers we open up here in the winter are sanctuaries. The work we do with the Transgender Advocacy Network is sanctuary work. The Black Lives Matter banner that we just rededicated a few weeks ago is sanctuary work. Every day, every week, we work on providing sanctuary to each other and to anyone who needs that place where the fullness of their humanity is seen, respected, and loved. We need these places of refuge, respite and renewal for our spirits, and physical places of safety for gathering and support and encouragement. Places that are beautiful, yes, and useful, and accessible and inspiring. Places that help us heal and then return to go out into this beautiful and heartbreaking world stronger than when we arrived. Like the congregation of 100 years ago, we didn't ask for the earth to shift under our feet. We didn't choose to live in a time where we're watching the institutions of our shared civic life crumble and collapse. But we work with what we are given, the resources we have to rise to the occasion, knowing that what we create today will outlive us as well. It won't be the last time we'll talk about what it means to be a sanctuary here at the Unitarian Society. It won't be the last time we talk about the resiliency and accessibility and kind of beloved community that we want to create. The way our community networks get stronger each time we gather, the way we learn from one another about how to take care of each other better, the way we support each other and embrace and celebrate our differences, and celebrate the joy and beauty of life together as we go through it all. And above all, sanctuary is the way we cultivate love for one another in this beautiful and heartbreaking world, so that all of us may thrive. May it be so. Blessed be, and amen. Let us sing together once more number 86, Blessed Spirit of This Life. Please rise in body and spirit.
Serenity,
Please stay right where you are, and if you would like to hold hands with someone near you, if you have permission to do so, or put your hands over your heart, or hold them open to the world, however it is that you get connected into this moment. And as you go out into this beautiful and heartbreaking world, may the light of love shine upon you, out from within you, be gracious unto you, and bring you peace. For this is the day we are given. Let us rejoice and be glad in it. And let us call out a blessing. Call out a blessing, call